I'm going to show you how to make an easy streusel topping. This is something that's not only easy to make, but it's wonderful to have on hand just to sprinkle on some of your desserts like nice creams or even fresh fruit. So I always keep some in my refrigerator. You're going to need a food processor fitted with the S-blade. You want to make sure it's dry. So if you had just used it for something wet, dry it really well. Maybe even use a blow dryer, get every last bit of moisture or water dried. And I always say with every appliance, always get the biggest and the best that you can afford. So the streusel topping was a recipe I created probably 15 years ago when I wrote my first book on processed. It was a component of the cherry cobbler, and it used pecans, which you can do, but a lot of people don't want to always use nuts or want things that are a little bit lower in fat. So this is that variation. So instead of nuts, we are going to use oats. I'm using gluten-free rolled oats. And I am using coconut. Now, there is coconut that you can get that has been defatted. There are low-fat coconuts, so you can certainly use those. Just make sure whatever coconut you use, it is a dried coconut and it's unsweetened. I'm going to place that in the food processor as well, along with my seasonings. I have nutmeg, cinnamon, and vanilla bean powder, which just bumps up the flavor of all desserts, in my opinion. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to process this into kind of like breadcrumb consistency. I don't want to process it, into like a nut butter, even though it's not nuts, coconut. If you were to take coconut and just process it, you would get coconut butter. I don't mind that there's some texture and you can see some of the oats. And then I'm going to take my pitted dates. I like to use the Deglet Nor for these because they're a little bit drier. The medjool are so sticky that they're sometimes a little bit more difficult for me to work with for my desserts, but for eating, medjool dates are fantastic. My favorite date is actually something called the Bari date, Bahri, because they taste like caramel. All dates taste like candy, but the Bari actually tastes like caramel. So what I'm going to do is pulse. Now, if you've ever seen me make desserts before, I do a lot of things with nuts or oats, process them, add the dates so that we're getting like kind of a ball that's smushed together. But I don't want it to go that far because I want it to be crumbs. So I'm going to use the pulse button. I want the dates broken up, but I don't want it to just keep running so that I can make little cookies out of it. So I keep watching it. So when it's all crummy, where I can sprinkle it, then it's ready. I use this on puddings. When I make an apple pie before I bake it, I sprinkle it on top. But that's kind of the consistency you want. It's nice and sweet. I remember when I was little, there used to be a recipe on the back of the Bisquick box, and the streusel topping was made with oil and white flour and white sugar, and the only thing healthy really was the cinnamon and the nutmeg. So you have a little streusel topping. This will last a really, really long time. You probably don't have to keep it in the fridge, but I do just have a tendency to do that. You could even sprinkle this on your morning oatmeal.